Hello, my dear friends. Good morning. Anna, I hope you're there. And okay, this time I'm using my laptop. I'm not using the camera because it just didn't work. It didn't work for us. So I'm using my laptop, and I know that Anna did a small screening about a week ago to see if it worked, and it did. So I'm going to wait and see who comes in to see your program. So, Anna, are you there? We're not going to be here next Wednesday because I have an event, and it's very important that I show up. And I'm sorry we didn't have the last Wednesdays, but I'm going to tell you what happened. We were on a trip. We went. Anna went overseas, and I went to take care of my grandson. And so we were very busy, and it happens, when it's summer, it does happen. So we have been doing a lot of thinking and knitting because summer you still need to do things. In May, I used to always start my projects in May because it takes a long time, and everybody in my family kind of expected me to knit something for them, and I did, and it's a joy because you do give your heart when you are doing things like that. Hi, Anna. Hi. Oh my gosh. Thank you very much for being with us. Hello, everybody. It's not morning. Where are you? Oh, it's afternoon. You're probably in Europe. Yes. Okay. So glad to see you. Thank you very much for being with us, and I appreciate your following us and subscribing and all that. And so next Wednesday we're not going to be with you because I have something important to do. But from now on, yes, every Wednesday at noon, except for next Wednesday, we're going to be live. So thank you, Monica. Thank you very much. Okay, so thank you. You were me. Yes, yeah. Anna and my son were in Europe, and it was like a month, and I went to take care of Nicholas, and it was a joy, and what a wonderful opportunity. So this time I really want to talk about something that's very important. You see, I have had students that want to make a stitch, and they want to make the stitch, and they want to make the stitch, and then they pick up, let's say, two colors, like maybe a yellow and an orange, and they start making the stitch. And one of them was doing, I think it was the basket weave with two different colors, and it didn't show. I mean, it was too busy. So either you make the stitch with a very plain yarn, or you make the yarn stand out and do a very simple stitch. So for example, this is a yarn, and it changes colors 3 times. See, so it changes very little. And then you have yarn that changes quicker. So not as quick, not as fast, but still quicker than this. And then you have yarn that changes very quickly. So changes in the pieces of color are shorter. So you do not want to make something that has a complicated stitch with something like this, because it's going to get lost. You're not going to appreciate the stitch, or you're not going to appreciate the yarn, or both. So if you're going to use something like that, get something very simple. Make something like, straight stitch, or, plain jersey, or something like that. You do not want to have anything complicated. You can have something complicated. I have this yarn. See how it changes colors, but it changes textures. It's like, it's not textures, but it's different tones. You see it? It's different tones of the blue and the green. So you can make a complicated stitch with something like this, because it's not that distracting. See, this is the enclosed diamonds that we're going to be showing you this weekend. But see how it's done with a number 2 yarn. So this is the way it looks, and it's not very distracting. It's a little, because there is changes in tones. But see, this is the same stitch with solid yarn, and you can appreciate the stitch much better. See it? Now you can appreciate the stitch much. But of course, this is a lace stitch. So lacy stitches look very nice with very thin yarn. But if it's solid or something like this. So also yarn, this Anna brought from I think it was Venice. So when you have yarn like this, you do not want to make anything complicated, because you do want the yarn to be the center part of the piece. So what I am mostly sure going to make with this is either jewelry or something for my head, like like a headband, or because it's not a yarn that warms. It's for show. So what you can do with this is either make a sweater and make something like the lapels of the sweater, and then you can make something for the sleeves also. So this is the one that's going to show the most in the piece that you knit, because that's what it is. It's for show. It's beautiful yarn. So what you can do in this yarn, for example, this is from Knit Crate, and this yarn has sparkles. See them? And it has like little changes of yarn and sparkles. This is very nice. We made a cowl with this. I think we made the French handkerchief with this, the French scarf. And it looks very pretty. You can use a very simple stitch with this, because you do want this to stand out. See, but not a very complicated stitch. But for example, if you decided to make cables or something like that, you can use it, because it's not that distracting. Now, if you want a very complicated stitch, then please use plain yarn. Please use simple plain yarn. See, like so. This is the one that we're going to be showing on the next weekend. So this is a cowl. See, like that. And I started around like this. And then I did a Kitchener stitch. Let me see where it is. Right there. So see, it doesn't show. Where is it? It's right there. So, but see, it doesn't show. So this is a very nice piece, but you do not want a variegated yarn with something like this, because your stitch is not going to show. It's going to be too busy. And to tell you the truth, elegance is simple. Something simple is always a very elegant piece. So I do have yarn that is a tweed. So with tweed, you have to be careful not to do something intricate like cables, because they're not going to show, and the piece is going to be too busy, and it's too distracting, and it's not going to be elegant. So I think with this yarn, I'm going to make a cowl. I'm going to knit the two together and make a cowl. And you have to be very careful what you put together with this, because you need buttons to put like on the side of a cowl. I want to make a cowl one that turns on the upper side and then it opens a little at the bottom, but it's together here with like two buttons. And I found some that my mother had that belonged to my great-grandmother. Look how pretty those are. And these are silver. So I think it's going to look very nice with this because it will stand out. But see, don't put too much because it would be too busy. I am going to use a stitch with this, but I think it's just going to be like a double seat stitch so that the texture shows. But you don't want it to be too busy. So what you want, let me show you something. For example, if it's a very thick yarn, I made this vest a long time ago. So if you want to make a vest like this, this is a very plain yarn, and this is you can put very pretty buttons and make those stand out. And you remember that I showed you how to make this vest. But see, this vest, the yarn has texture. See, it has color. But the color does not distract much from the stitch. It's a double seat stitch. But see, this double seat stitch kind of brings out the yarn. It kind of brings out that little texture that it has. So it's kind of neat. It's not so plain, but it's not too busy. So be careful with the yarn that you use. Make sure that you do not have a stitch that will clash with the texture of the yarn. And those things are very important. So do not use variegated yarn that with an intricate stitch. This, you need something very simple because you want the yarn to be the one standing out. You do not want your stitch to be fighting with the yarn. You want either the yarn or the stitch to be the centerpiece of your knitting. So for example, here, the stitch is the one that shows up. It's very pretty yarn, very, very nice. It's wool, but it's the stitch that is showing. It's the stitch that is the main part of the cowl. So that's it. And it's very simple. Please be careful with the yarn that you pick for your stitch. Try to have it very, very easy. So you can use a very plain yarn to make something plain. For this yarn, I bought it in Austin. And the Hill Country Weavers, they have beautiful yarn. And I like the textures and the color. And I can use something like a straight stitch to make anything with this because the color is just magnificent. But see, the stitch doesn't get angry with the yarn. It kind of looks pretty also. So it's a matter of trying. Whenever you have your yarn and you don't know what to do with it, please be careful on the stitch that you choose and what you choose it for, because it's part of the design. And we're here trying to help you design your own knits. We are having a series of classes on that. We already explained how to know how many stitches you need to make a sweater or whatever you need to do. And you always have trouble with the simple. Yes, it is. Simple is elegant, yes. And it's always that, for example, if you have something that you're wearing that is plain. Well, you can use a necklace, but don't use too much of a necklace if you have something on with a lot of pattern. So if you have a dress that has a pattern, don't overload it with jewelry or stuff on top. It's elegance is a very simple thing to do. Just like a little brooch would look nice on something that I like what I have now. Be very plain, because you are the person that wants to show yourself. And I just do believe that elegance is something that you learn how to be, and you try to use your knits to show yourself who the person you are, and that's what you gift. And start your Christmas gifts now, because that's when it's time. You don't want to rush things. And I thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much for being back. And we love you all. And please subscribe and share us with your friends and like our page. And I appreciate you very, very much. Thank you, Anna. Thank you for being here. And thank you very much, Rima. Thank you. No, you don't need to have problems with your yarn. But thank you very much. And I love you all. And take care. God bless you. And stay cool.